Hello and welcome to the Common Colt Podcast. I'm Josh Hudgens, and with me is my other host, Dan Hertzler. We're just going off week one. The Colts took a loss to Houston. That's what I'm going to call it anyway.
Wait a second. You just said a loss. Technically it was a tie. Let's give them the credit for what they at least earned.
Yeah, when you're 7-point favorites, you're playing the 32nd ranked team in the league. It's kind of hard to find any piece of optimism in a tie. But
yeah, I mean I get that, and I'm sure the Texans are feeling better about the tie. We'll get into that in their decision at the end of the overtime there. But man, what a wild game! I mean, you look at that game and the emotions of it. What were some of your impressions, Josh? Just first half, just kind of seeing how the Colts came out.
Yeah, they started off. I thought the play calling was conservative to an extent, and I know that Frank Reich, when they got down in the red zone and they ran the wildcat with Hines and Taylor, that was aggressive. But I thought that was idiotic. Like, I wouldn't even call that aggressive. I just thought that was dumb, just a dumb play call. But other than that, it was just so predictable, like halfback dive, a lot of screen passes. They did not, and if you watched our last episode, they did not get guys outside of Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines involved at all. It was just running the ball, screen passes, and that was it. And I think it really hurt them in the first half. And obviously, the mistakes really started popping their heads up. You had Alec Pierce drop one in the end zone. Braden Smith, a holding call, then a sack, false start, I should say. Just a bad first half.
Yeah, we talked last episode about, Frank Wright making the comment that they're going to be creative, or we didn't see, the full scope of this offense. And, going into the season and the whole preseason, the big question was, is someone else going to step up? And, first half, it really wasn't. I mean, you had JT had a good first half, 14 carries, 68 yards. Matt Ryan, efficient, 14 for 19, 134. Pittman, pretty decent, 6 for 80. Those are good first half stats, but like you said, just nothing downfield, nothing creative, nothing taking advantage of that, and to really just really have a really kind of dud first half was disappointing.
Yeah, and then you get to the second half, and really more of the same to start the second half. The Texans really rode that wave of momentum. Right, they opened up with a flea flicker and. The Colts offense kind of sputtered to start. You kind of get, though, to the fourth quarter, and then you start seeing Matt Ryan. They're forced to throw it to receivers almost. And I don't know if they don't trust the receivers, and that's why he wasn't doing it earlier, or why Reich wasn't drawing up the play calls, but he started having to throw to the receivers and tight ends, and they had more success with that. And with that, then Taylor started really biting off chunks of yardage, especially in the fourth quarter, obviously. Why do you think that they weren't getting the receivers involved at all early?
Yeah, it's we see this over and over in the NFL. Sometimes out of necessity, you realize, hey, if we play a little bit more loose, we play from behind, we got nothing to lose. They're down 17 going into the fourth. They've got to be able to move the ball. They got to go up tempo. They got to start spreading around. Texans defense, I didn't get a chance to look at the all 22 kind of stuff, but I'm playing a little more conservative, trying to play a little bend but don't break. Ryan gets in that rhythm and things start moving, and again, the most, probably average of us fans are looking there saying, well, why didn't they start out that way? Why did they start out that way? Just kind of not the way that the NFL goes. And, Ryan, and I think, you were talking to me about it during the game. You saw showing some leadership on the sidelines.
Yeah, I liked what I saw, and they got a field goal. They got stopped in the goal line in the fourth quarter, and they're down 14 points at that point. And you could see him. He's firing up the defense. He's firing up the offensive line. Just make one play. He was telling the defense. That's what it looked like. Yeah. And I know that the knock or the scapegoat on the Colts last year was Carson Wentz. This guy's not a leader. Well, to me, that was an awesome display of leadership from Matt Ryan. And as a Colts fan, it kind of pains me to make the comparison. A lot of people, this is going to hurt their ears. But you see Tom Brady, and they're like, hey, as long as this guy's on the field or on your team, you feel like you had a chance. When that moment happened, I was like, oh, man, I wonder if he's going to galvanize this team into a comeback. Yeah. And to me, he did that.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's exactly what you were saying when we were chatting about that. Ryan's game, and again, maybe this fourth quarter, maybe it's the preseason, maybe it's just getting into a rhythm. I mean, it is week one. We got to remember that it is week one.
Yeah.
Maybe that fourth quarter, maybe they're going to find this rhythm. Ryan's game was such just a kind of all over the map. I mean, he had four fumbles. Only lost I think one or two of them, so that was good. Threw for 350, started to spread the ball around. Pittman was the main target, but started spreading around a little bit. Demonstrated that leadership, coming back from 17 down. I don't care what game it is of the year. That's a big accomplishment in the NFL. And so, Texans did what
with those fumbles, those snaps. Like, how does that happen?
Yeah.
And Ryan Kelly, he's a Pro Bowl center, and Matt Ryan, he's a veteran quarterback. He knows how to take how does that happen, do you think?
It's a weird thing. I mean, I going back to even when I was playing, and quarterbacks talked about even quarterbacks when they throw the ball, they receivers sometimes talk about a catchable ball or not a catchable ball because of the way the ball spins. It's kind of the same way with centers too. And Ryan not having the preseason, not having the timing down, it seems so basic, but I can give him a little bit of a pass on that. It's just, it's this age-old thing. Do we play in the preseason and shake off the rust, or do we try to keep him safe and don't get hurt? Colts, chose not to play very often, and now, you see a little bit of the slow start. I mean, we even called it last episode, right? We said Texans were going to hit the tight ends. That was what Pep Hamilton wanted to do. O.J. Howard, 2 touchdowns. Texans really didn't do much if you think about this game. Like, you look at, they didn't run really great. They didn't pass really great. I mean, they played some good defense. We'll give them credit for that. This was more about just the Colts just being in neutral for 3 quarters until they woke up in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. If the mistakes this game, special teams, offensively, defensively, was insane. One thing I want to talk about, Blankenship, the kicker.
Yeah.
This guy, I'm just not a fan of his. And first of all, he had big shoes to fill in Adam Vinatieri, right? Like, it's going to be tough to replace the greatest kicker of all time. But when they're driving downfield in overtime, you look at the guy. He does not radiate confidence at all on the sideline.
Yeah.
And then let's rewind back to last season. I don't know if anybody remembers this, but his last game was against the Ravens, and the guy missed a bunch of kicks. He was injured, I think, had a hip injury. That was really his last game of the season. Now he comes back. He has a chance to, like, a redeeming story, 42 yards. Well, first of all, he kicks 2 kickoffs out of bounds, but then he misses a 42-yard field goal. I'm about ready to say the Colts need to get some kickers in Indianapolis tomorrow and start working out kickers, because this guy is not the answer as a kicker.
Yeah, I think you're on to something here, because you look across the NFL and at least the first slate of games, and you see kicking coming down to winning and losing with the Browns game, the Steelers game. There's another game in there that it came down to, but the margin of victory and loss is so small in the NFL that special teams and kickers are huge. That especially with the Colts, and we've talked about them, they need everything to go right. Yes. They need to play good defense. They need good pass protection. They need to keep moving the ball, not make mistakes. Well, missing a field goal is a mistake. Missing a 42-yarder in the NFL this day and age is almost a layup. It's what the best kickers do. It's why you pay them. And this guy has not proven to be that. And we're going to talk here in a second about the who's to blame. Who are we going to throw it all on to? He's one of the candidates. You got to make that kick. And
in a dome, pretty much, nice AstroTurf. Field conditions can't be thrown under the bus there. I was just not impressed, and just difficult as a fan to stomach. Moving on though, speaking of blaming people, and I'm just going to say who I blame, and it's not necessarily the kicker as much as it is the coach. They were not prepared week one, and it's not like when I watched this game, I didn't say, oh man, Matt Ryan just looked awful, or this defense just, they could not stop the run. It was all 3 phases: running into the kicker, kicking balls off out of bounds, defense, just blowing assignments on coverages to the tight ends, offense fumbling the snap, drops in the end zone, 2 drops in the end zone. Alec Pierce, one he should have had. Doolin, he dropped that one. It was a nice play by the defender, but you got to have strong hands there. You're trying to make a comeback. You got to make the play. I know Ballard said, "Hey, we got the receivers we need." I don't know if he was lying or if he just misjudged it, but to me, it did not seem like they had the receivers. So I'm putting the blame, like I said, if they lost, on Reich and Ballard because that team, they were not ready.
I think that's a really valid thing. I think, coaching matters so much, especially early on here. And, just to be as flat as they were. Again, we're talking about the Texans here. Texans are in a full rebuild mode. They are not a contender. Yes. Colts are wanting to be a contender. They got to go out there. They weren't ready for that. And so I think you're on to that. Mine was Matt Ryan going into it. And for probably about 3 quarters, I was feeling good. Well, not good about it because they were losing, but good that was the right pick because he did not look good. He saved himself, I think, in the 4th quarter. Hopefully, like you said, that's a sign of leadership that this team needs. Hopefully that's something going forward. I'm going to put it, though, on what we talked about. We needed the unsung hero to step up, and there was no one there. You mentioned, Pierce in the drop. You mentioned some other plays that were happening. Just nobody else. I mean, again, you look at, Jonathan Taylor, ended up 31 carries, 161 yards. Pittman, 9 catches, 121. We kind of knew those guys could do that. We talked maybe Pittman is going to be that big guy to step up. He did step up, but they still need, a little bit more here. And I was a little disappointed that we didn't see that across the board. Outside of, not much in the secondary. The defensive line, I thought, played really well. Yeah. They put some pressure, made the big sack, to get the fumble to start the rally. So, but I'm pretty much going to put this on the unsung hero and no one else stepping up, and that's what the Colts need.
Yeah, they need that. And to your point, with this style of play of running the rock, and you're probably not going to throw for 450 yards a game, you need that guy to step up, and you need to make your field goals and play solid fundamental football throughout the game. Yeah. I know they lost, and we're going to talk about
they tied. Remember, they tied. I know it feels like a loss.
It's a loss. They tied. It's a loss. I'm chalk. All Colts fans, we're chalking this up as a loss. You do not play the 32nd ranked team in the league in the division after you lose to Jacksonville and then lose to Houston. Like you don't do it. That's a loss. Embarrassing. So I know they lost.
I have 2 questions for you though. One is the decision not to play call, but the decision not to kick the field goal in the first half. What was your feeling on that?
I liked it. I like going for it. You're at the 3-yard line. I think that just a basic RPO or something with Matt Ryan would have been a little more sufficient. Maybe something to Pittman and have Taylor involved. The read option from Hines was a little too kinky, I thought, and a little overplayed maybe.
Even though that the game ended a tie, the field goal would have won it. You like the aggressiveness. You're an analytics kind of guy. Go for it.
Because at that point the Texans offense had not shown all that much, and you're saying, hey, if we get stopped, we're at the 3-yard line, and our defense is good, and they got to go 97 yards, which they did, I believe, they scored a touchdown that drive. And the odds were slim on that.
Yeah. What do you think about the Texans' decision at the very end of overtime? I think it was 4th and 3 around their 50, maybe 20, 25 seconds left. Mm-hmm. And they punt it, not being aggressive to go for the win.
That was interesting. I know the Texans fans were upset. They were booing. Yeah. I was hoping that they were going to go for that because that would have given the Colts a shot to win a game that they probably shouldn't have won. As a fan, I think that, and as a player, you would think that they're a little upset that would happen. But Lovie Smith that was an odd call because that was not a long 4th down.
Yeah, I would be curious. I didn't get a chance to see the press conference afterwards, how he spun it. But again, as a player for the team, you want your coach to believe in you. You want your coach to say, we can get 3 yards. We can get into field goal range. We can win the game. And, that choice for them not to, although they got technically the tie, and maybe that's what they were punting for at that point. It'll be curious to see if that was the right decision for morale, the right decision for where this Texans are going. And I can't imagine one of the players are happy that they got a tie on that team.
It's funny you say that when you think about decisions coaches can make to improve the morale or not. I'm thinking back to 2018. The Colts were actually playing the Texans, and this was Andrew Luck's last season with the Colts, and they're in Indianapolis. The Colts are in overtime at around their 35, 40-yard line, and it's a fourth down, and the time's ticking down in overtime, and Frank Reich decides to go for it on fourth down, knowing that if they don't get this, they're probably going to lose the game. And they did not get it. And the Texans got like 5-10 yards, kicked a field goal, and won it. After the game, Andrew Luck said, "Hey, you know what? Nobody wants to play for a freaking tie. They galvanized the team." And then they went on a run after that, and they made the playoffs. And they beat Houston in the playoffs in the wild card round. Decisions like that can galvanize football teams. And I think it was a missed opportunity for the Texans more than it was for the Colts, maybe.
Yeah, and I'm 100% with you. And like we were trying to, this is week one. It's a long season. A lot of things going to play out. But I do think the way the game ended, even though the missed field goals is really disappointment, but the comeback, Ryan's play, how that offense moved, to me, that's going to be helpful in them preparing this week. That's going to be helpful for them as they get ready for, going to another place where they've struggled over the years in going to Jacksonville.
So are you panicking? What's the panic meter?
Oh man, that's a great question. As a Colts fan, and we'll have to see what the rest of the NFL does. Obviously watching some other teams if they get wins. I think you're at a 6. That's high for the rest of the NFL. Like, some other teams lost, they're probably more at a 2 or 3. Hey, it's fine. But like you already said earlier, the way that last season ended, the way that this starts, and now the questions. Okay, we got another old quarterback. Do we gotta change things up? Do we need to get a young guy in here? Now we go to Jacksonville, and we haven't won. I forget what it is. It's like 8 or 9 years in a row, or whatever. They haven't won in Jacksonville. So I do think it's a 6, but I'm not ready to fire anybody. But I'm ready to, just to give some people some stern talkings. That's for sure.
Yeah, I love, because I know Irsay has been putting the pressure on Frank Reich. I got my sense of urgency, or my panic meter, I should say, at a 5 or 6 as well. Just because I didn't feel that the Colts looked outmatched by Houston, which would have been really bad.
Where was it in the third quarter? Where was your panic level in the third quarter?
It was about a 7 or an 8. Yeah, it was. But when the mistakes went away, and there were some dumb ones that I think are correctable. Like you're not going to run into the kicker very often. You think your Pro Bowl center and quarterback are going to get the snaps figured out. Things like that, I think you can correct. And the thing you can't correct is, hey, if we sign Matt Ryan, is this guy going to look like a geriatric quarterback? Is this guy going to look too old? And I thought he moved in the pocket well. I thought he had good pocket. I thought he was accurate. I didn't notice like a really weak noodle arm. I thought he made some good down the field crossers he hit and things like that. So
I don't think he's Rivers, and I don't think he's Wentz. So that's a good sign. So
I think so. And he looked good in the pocket, and he actually ran on a few plays to get some first downs. So I think that if Matt Ryan looked really bad, the panic meter would be higher. But this game against Jacksonville, and we're going to talk about it in our next episode, is going to be the game. I think. This could really define an early season. They need to establish their identity, I think, coming up against Jacksonville.
Yeah, I agree. Again, I know Jacksonville is kind of in a late battle back and forth. I think they actually lost, but I didn't quite catch that game. But Jacksonville's the same situation as the Texans. They're not a good team. They're quote unquote rebuilding. They've got a lot of youth. This is another team that they should come out and just kind of put their foot down and step on the throat and just walk over them. So I'm really curious what this week in practice will be. I'm going to be watching, the attitudes of the players, of the coaches, checking the injury reports. All that stuff's important to get ready for this game. And Colts need to come out, and they need to have a really good first half.
I agree. And we're one nice addition the Colts might have heading into Jacksonville is Shaquille Leonard. I know we tied against Houston, but we might be adding the best linebacker in football, and Shaquille Leonard. That can't hurt, right?
Yeah, I think everything we've read is that they held him out just to be cautious. And we should watch him, watch him practice, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Those are the 3 important days. But he should be back. And I agree. Yeah. Someone like that can make one or two plays that just kind of change a game. And again, that's the way the Colts are going to have to play. Everything is coming down to execution, and they're not going to win a lot of blowout games, but maybe he can make the difference so that they can actually win. And I'm proud of you for saying a tie. So that was really
cool. As we kind of worked our way through this show, I've got some of that tension off the chest a little bit.
Good.
And
Good.
This has been a bit therapeutic for me, maybe. We'll see. It's early in the season. I know it's bad, but I guess it could be worse. Maybe I don't know how, but it could be. I'm sure. So
no, you didn't have big injuries, and you look better ending than you started. So that's what we're going to hold our hat on.
We got something to build upon. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, guys, that is the Common Colt Podcast review of Week 1. Make sure to follow us on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify. We're on YouTube. Again, the Common Colt Podcast. We're just Common Colts fans, just talking about Colts football, trying to give real, unbiased, as it can be, analysis. And that's what we are. So, guys, thanks for watching, and you guys have a great week.